I'm a sad boy. Sad, 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 sad boy. Sad boy. Moody boy. Moody boy. Emo boy. Moody boy. Moody boy. Sad boy.
I'm a boy, you are a girl. I'm a boy, but you are a girl. I'm a boy, you are a girl. I'm a boy, but you are a girl. I'm a boy, you are a girl. I'm a boy, but you are a girl. I'm a boy, you are a girl. 아름다운 여자한테 좀 받아야 해.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Well, okay, now I'm gonna get the direction right, okay? And this is Ben.
And this is Ildi.
Yay! Okay, it worked.
Oh
It's
my
a
God.
miracle.
It's
Guys,
so
this
difficult.
yeah, it is. It is. But we are not giving up. And I think 2020, it's about not giving up, despite everything that the world is experiencing. So in this spirit, we are not going to leave you guys without content about K-pop classics and, co-ed groups, because this is our latest endeavor. And we are going to learn about mixed gender groups. This has been an interesting topic of ours recently. And now we are jumping from Rura and Cool. We are going to jump ahead a bit, I think like 3 to 4 years or something.
Yep.
And the band is called
Koyote.
Koyote, which we learned
the
from reading it.
Hangul is Koyote.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, this is a band that music with I'm only familiar with basically on the grounds of Immortal songs. But Immortal songs, I'm good. So I'm kind of curious, like how they actually sounded originally. So this is what we're going to do with the debut song of Koyote, which is called
Genuine.
Yay, absolutely. So let me know when we are starting, okay? Because then I'm going to start the video as well.
Yep, we're ready to start now. So let me know.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Yeah, and
It's disco time, baby.
tired. Thanks for asking. Yeah!
Yeah! Yeah!
I think we are in our comfort zone.
Absolutely.
This is it. Europop comfort zone.
Oh, it's like I'm 5 again.
Oh, yeah. I think I was 6 or 7. That's the thing. That because of that Immortal songs, I think I know this song already. But this is very different from what I remember.
It sounds familiar, but that's probably just because it's like Eurobeat thumping.
Oh Jesus, this is unbelievably good. Love it. White, all in white and now all in black.
That center parting was having a moment back in like the late 90s.
Yeah, and don't forget that the fringe needs to go also, like, so it covers one of your eyes at least.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because these people have very similar vocal tones to the Cool members as well, in terms of like, isn't it? It's like a singing style.
She sounds a lot like Yuri.
Oh, but now this could work for like a rock band as well. This high note that she did. Okay, here's the thing. Like, if I were a university student in the 90s, like this could have been the club hit that I was just like, you know what? I messed up my exam. Let's just dance to Koyote.
Yeah. Was that proto Gangnam Style there?
Possible.
That dance move.
I can imagine anything. It's possible. People let us know in the comments.
Let me call it out if they do it again.
Yeah.
Shake your booty.
But you know what? The earrings, like literally, this is what I see on every boy band member today. The earrings are the same. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God, the lights.
I'm loving
I can't
this.
believe that they can, like, yeah, but like, it's a miracle that they can still see. Like after all these stage experiences. You know what? Like, it also reminds me that they are always the video camera is always from up. It's almost like how I did it in high school. You know, when we were taking pictures, and it's always from
Yeah. She's so pale.
Yeah, it's just the filter on the video, right?
Yeah. Because she looks perfectly fine in these, and then like she's like a ghost in the other
Yeah, I know.
pictures.
I have to point out,
I love
great,
it. Oh, this is the Gangnam Style move.
Yeah,
See?
it is. Gosh,
It's almost
that's the
exactly.
revelation.
There you go. And I love they're dancing right next to a screen with "Shake Your Booty" written out.
Oh wow, I really like this melody, by the way. No wonder this was a hit.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have been right there with it.
I would like to point out, you know, Pentaton, by the way. It's the pentatonic system, you know, right up my alley. I always talk about this on the channel. Like how. Okay, now that you moved it, I stopped again. So
I don't know why there was two LDs.
that's okay. I think we should keep this in.
The wonders of
Honestly,
OBS, people.
yeah, this is the reality, guys. Like, you know, sometimes when you go on YouTube, you see these fancy recordings, you know, of people, but they are reacting separately and then they are editing it together. An option which we considered, but realized that we are not professional enough. So we didn't do it.
We don't have like really good cameras and great lighting, so this is just what you get, to be honest.
No, I'm stuck with my office lighting and all the greens.
Yeah, but
behind
yours
me.
looks good, whereas I'm just like in my bedroom with like washing behind me. Like,
But I turned up all the lights in you know, basically I'm still at my office and it's 10:45 p.m. But actually this reminds me of something, Ben, and this is just like a small thing for people who, if anybody who is watching and has been with us from the very beginning, there were some episodes that many don't realize but were actually filmed at Xenia's office. So basically after work, because, you know, as long as we can remember doing this channel, we always worked. So we didn't have a lot of free time. So I basically went to her office after everybody left around like 8:30 p.m. And we recorded in like one of the big, giant like towers in London, in like on the whatever 15th, I don't know, store or whatever. Yeah, so yeah, this is the truth. But anyway, back to the song. What did you think, Ben?
I mean, obviously I liked it because I'm a complete sucker for like eurodance and europop, and this was that.
But we have to be careful with this, by the way, and because we are using Europop and Eurodance as like, you know, this would be something that's just like owned by, you know, people from our alley, but like it could be like the dance music itself definitely swept the world. So maybe it was called differently over there, right? So it was called, I don't know, club.
I guess, but I think it was just kind of like owned by the European DJs that brought it out first, and then like other people made similar stuff.
Yeah, I think so. So people like don't take this in the wrong way if you think it came from somewhere else. Or where were the beginnings? Do let us know if you have a different opinion, and like which was the first band, for example, that used it, you know, in Korea, because I'm not entirely sure, like, you know, what was the biggest hit that was the first music of this kind of style. So do let us know if you have any idea. But personally, I think I do like this.
I mean, an act that we watched before were kind of pretty Eurodance, and that was Turbo.
Oh yeah, Turbo.
You know?
Everybody who haven't seen it, watch it.
Yeah,
I think it's one of the best
trip.
videos that, honestly, one of the best videos that we've ever done. I think.
I had so much fun editing those.
I think that those are just so genuinely great. Anybody who's interested in like, you know, Korean popular culture is just like, it's a great music. So it's easy to do a good video on it. That's it basically. But back to Koyote. So in terms of, so here we have 2 boys and 1 girl, if I assumed it correctly. This is interesting because often, at least in these groups, we see Rura has 4 members. And then here we have 3 members, and also Cool had 3 members as well, right?
Mm.
And it's always kind of like, so Rura had 2 girls and 2 boys, and in here we have 2 boys and 1 girl.
Mm.
So it's kind of like kind of an interesting thing. But like we're gonna look into different groups as well, like that are more recent. But nowadays the groups that are coming out, it's almost like more members. The recent one that we are going to check out later in this series is Checkmate, where you have like, you know, multiple members and stuff. So it's kind of interesting.
2 girls, 3 guys in Checkmate.
So that's kind of interesting. So what do you think about that kind of, you know, is there like a perfect balance in your head that you think a co-ed group should look like?
I don't know if there's a perfect balance, but I find it interesting that co-ed groups are usually much smaller in number of members. Like if you look at like the prevalent groups now, like the most popular co-ed group are Card, right? 4 members. Whereas
Yeah.
if you're like just guys or just girls, you can have like 12, 13 members and that's fine. But for some reason we never get like big like 8+ member co-ed groups. Like almost never.
That's
Like
kind of an
I
interesting
guess the
thing.
most recent one that had lots of members was Co-ed School, right?
How many members co-ed school had?
I mean that was 2 bands smashed together. So they had quite a few. Let me just double check exactly how many members they had. Because they're 5 Dolls and Speed together. So they had yeah, like 10 members.
Wow. Okay, that is a lot, but that to me almost sounds like a project thing, isn't it? So it's not necessarily something that is just like, it stays with, just like Koyote, like they even performed recently, you get what I mean? So it's kind of a different experience when you have it like as a type of project, and it lasts to, depending on the popularity, obviously. And I think there is something that we clearly need to point out, that like what we watched so far, and like we're going to watch another song from Koyote, that these co-ed groups were kind of popular in the 90s, and it took quite some time for them to kind of come back. And even when, you know, the one that we are familiar with kind of the most, probably, at least I am, Card, when they came back, they were basically the only one on the scene. And it's kind of interesting, like that we know, even just our limited knowledge, that by the numbers, co-ed groups weren't that many in the 90s, but at least there were some that were very popular. So it's kind of interesting, like how, for example, unfortunately, Card so far didn't get to the popularity of a only boy or only girl member group. Why do you think that is? Why do you think 90s were a great time for like gender mixed groups? Any guesses? Because we're only guessing here, everybody. So do not think that like this is I don't know, set in stone or anything.
I'm not too sure. I think maybe it's partly just because, and this is completely just my like estimation of it, but fans were a little bit more chilled out back then, and the general like music landscape was more chilled out back then. Where like if you have like a co-ed group, you're not going to have everyone under the sun shipping the members together and saying, oh, they're in a relationship with this person, or I don't like that, they're with this group, why are they doing this? And like, because fans can get pretty crazy about that stuff now, like even with idols that aren't in the same group. And if you have like idols in the same group that are of different sex, people just ship them like nothing else. And I don't think that maybe would be as healthy now.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting thing. The other thing that I was thinking about, and this is something very far-reaching, but you know, people who watch this channel kind of already know that I'm this like hobby anthropologist and sociologist, and like I just try to connect the dots, sometimes wrongly, but you know, it's just, you know, let's make guesses. The kind of study, if you look at the 90s and like how the 90s were around the globe, and I'm guessing it was kind of similar to Korea, it definitely brought a lot of cultural changes. So like compared to the 80s, like different music came up. You know, the fashion changed radically. And I'm guessing it was like something in terms of in the air, that it was like a wave that made people more open towards new things. And as we know, like, you know, when the crisis happens in the, you know, later 90s, like that also kind of, you know, messed up the pop culture scene as well. So like something that was thriving up till then suddenly changed. And it's also an interesting thing how you can market a co-ed group. And this is what I was thinking about. I'm not entirely sure how old the members of Koyote were, for example, when they debuted, because it's a recent conversation in K-pop today, and I'm curious about what you think about this band, that some of the members are very young when they start out. Like we have, you know, we were just talking about, you know, Treasure the other day, the new YG boy group, and some of the members are, you know, 15, but a big chunk of them are young. So it's not like you have one member who's 15, but a lot of them are very young. So how
And
old were they
like
when they started
TXT
that
are
one
really
thing?
young and stuff like that.
TXT are very young as well. So they are like barely, none of them are adults.
And then
I think two of them are adults, yeah.
interestingly, looking on the Coed side, Checkmate, who've just debuted, are a lot older than most groups are when they debut. Like, their oldest member's like 28. Or
Wow.
27 even.
Okay, so this is an interesting insight that we already discovered, that I think when it comes to, it's almost like a lot of things, even if these are, clearly this in the 90s at least Koyote, I'm not sure what they were thinking about, but this was definitely not overly sexual or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
Not at all. But I'm assuming that like you almost like need to be of a certain age for the audience, to make this acceptable.
Yeah, I suppose so. I
So
wonder
like,
also if part of like the popularity of co-ed groups back then was because kind of like the whole landscape of Korean music was kind of experimenting. Like they'd only just started really having like idol groups, and you'd had Sotaji shaking stuff up, and then you've had
yeah,
HOT
absolutely.
getting super popular. Then you have like Juice and Turbo as like duos getting popular. So all these different types of groups could be popular in the 90s, whereas now it's quite clear that your best bet is to have a big idol group with loads of people of the same gender. Whereas back then it wasn't so obvious what would be your best bet to make money.
I think it's interesting what you said about what would be your best bet to make money, because it's also it might be a bit of like a cruel, but a very true statement about like how the business evolved. Like the market was just so much smaller. And I'm assuming even if Koyote was popular overseas or they went to do some concert, it wasn't that extensive as it is today. So what I found very interesting with some of the groups today, and I think this is a conversation for later, but just mention it now, that like some of the things like Card and Checkmate are like they were, for example, extremely popular in like South America. Just like the idea of like now you can target an entirely different geographic without moving out from the country and debuting in Korea. So like, wow, that was, I'm assuming, very different in the 90s. Like this was mainly targeting, the local market. So absolutely, this is kind of like a conversation that we usually have here, but we don't want to make this video too long. So what we're going to do is going to jump to the next Koyote song, so to see what that holds for us. And guys, if anything sparks your interest, anything that we talked about, as always, let us know in the comments, and we'll try our very best to reply as fast as we can and in as much detail as we can. So yeah, talk soon and see you in the next video about Koyote. Bye.